The first rule of the Galactic Apex Habitat was simple: never touch the Xythar Beast, and absolutely never scratch its belly. Unfortunately, when Keeper Zorvax turned the corner of Containment Dome 7, the human was already doing both. The dome's atmospheric filters hummed under a violet sky projection, casting prismatic light over the massive creature sprawled across a reinforced grav pad. The Xythar Beast, classified Apex Predator level Cataclysm, was 30 meters of armored muscle, serrated tail, and bioluminescent frills that glowed like a warning siren. Its claws could shear through starship hull plating. Its jaws were ringed with rotating inner mandibles designed to grind crystalline bone. It had once reduced a pirate dreadnought crew to trembling apologies with a single roar. At this moment, it was making a noise that could only be described as a purr. Eli Navarro, Earth's first interspecies behavioral intern, knelt beneath the creature's colossal torso, one hand buried in the soft, luminous fur between its thoracic plates. He scratched in slow, confident circles. The beast's rear leg, each talon the size of a shuttle, thumped rhythmically against the grav pad. Zorvax dropped his datapad. "Human! Cease tactile engagement immediately!" Eli glanced up, dark curls plastered to his forehead with sweat. "Hey! You must be Zorvax." "Sorry," he flopped over and exposed the belly. "That's universal, right?" The beast rolled slightly, exposing even more glowing underbelly. Its frills dimmed from hostile crimson to a blissful turquoise. Zorvax's secondary eyelids fluttered in horror. Around them, a cluster of visiting dignitaries from the Triune Assembly pressed against the observation barrier. Their translator nodes buzzed with frantic whispers. "That creature," one dignitary hissed, "annihilated 3 containment drones this morning." Eli scratched a little higher. The beast's tail swayed lazily, carving a shallow trench into the reinforced flooring. "Yeah, I read the file. Says here he responds aggressively to sudden movements, loud noises, and fear pheromones." Zorvax stiffened. "Of course it does. It is an apex predator engineered by a warlike civilization that no longer exists." "Exactly," Eli said. "So maybe don't treat him like a ticking bomb." The beast's massive head tilted, multi-lensed eyes focusing on Eli's face. One enormous claw extended toward the human's torso. Gasps echoed through the dome. Instead of retreating, Eli leaned forward and rubbed beneath the creature's chin ridge. The claw retracted. The purring intensified. Zorvax felt his crest frills wilt. He had managed the Galactic Zoo for 42 cycles. He had overseen plasma serpents, void krakens, and the notoriously temperamental nebulan shriekers. Never, had a Species 3 pre-contact worlder walked into his apex habitat and started petting the most dangerous entity in residence. "Human Navarro," Zorvax said carefully, "the Xythar Beast has never permitted physical proximity without dismemberment." Eli grinned. "Maybe nobody asked nicely." A sharp crack split the air as one of the beast's dorsal spines extended reflexively. The dignitaries recoiled. Zorvax's heart pounded. "Do you comprehend the stakes?" Zorvax demanded. "If that creature interprets your actions as dominance or threat display, it will liquefy your internal organs with a sonic pulse." Eli shifted position, now using both hands. "Back home, we've got something called a trust fall. This is like that, but fluffier." The beast rolled fully onto its back. The grav pad groaned under the redistributed mass. Warning lights flickered along the dome's perimeter. A containment field shimmered uncertainly. In the observation chamber, the Triune ambassador activated an emergency channel. "Keeper Zorvax, control your human." "I am attempting to," Zorvax muttered. Eli looked up again. "Hey, quick question. Has anyone ever tried enrichment instead of isolation?" Zorvax blinked. "The beast receives nutrient slurry calibrated to optimal metabolic ratios. That's not enrichment. That's hospital food." The beast's inner mandibles clicked softly, almost curiously. Eli shifted to scratch along a faint scar that traced the creature's abdomen. Zorvax's eyes widened. "Avoid that region. It sustained a plasma lance injury during capture." It associates that zone with extreme trauma. Eli froze, then softened his touch. Ah. Got it. Sorry, big guy. The beast's frills flickered uncertainly, yellow, then blue. Eli began humming. The sound was low and steady, a simple earth melody drifting through alien air. The beast's breathing synchronized gradually with the rhythm. Its claws flexed, not in aggression but in slow relaxation. Zorvax felt something unsettling stir beneath his professional indignation. Your species, he said cautiously. Domesticated predators on your homeworld? Dogs, cats, a few questionable reptiles, Eli replied. Rule 1, respect the teeth. Rule 2, most teeth just want snacks and belly rubs. A sudden tremor shook the dome. The beast's eyes snapped open, pupils dilating into black voids. Its frills flared crimson again as a distant klaxon echoed through the habitat complex. Containment breach in Sector 4. A mechanical voice announced. Void Wyrm larva unaccounted for. The beast's muscles tensed beneath Eli's hands. Zorvax's blood ran cold. The Void Wyrm larva emitted subsonic frequencies that triggered territorial responses in apex organisms. If the Xythar Beast interpreted the alarm as rival incursion. Human, Zorvax whispered. Slowly disengage. Eli swallowed. The purring had stopped. The beast's head lifted, nostrils flaring as it sampled the air. Its tail lashed once, gouging deeper into the floor. The containment field flickered violently. In the observation chamber, dignitaries scrambled for emergency exits. Eli placed one palm flat against the beast's glowing chest. Hey, he murmured. It's okay. Nobody's stealing your spot. The beast's gaze locked onto him. For a suspended second, the entire dome seemed to hold its breath. Zorvax realized, with dawning horror, that if the beast reacted violently now, it would not merely kill the human. It would trigger a chain failure across the habitat network, possibly stampeding half the zoo's apex collection. The Galactic Zoo would become a feeding ground. And it would all begin with a belly rub. The klaxon blared again, louder. The beast opened its jaws. Eli did not move his hand. The beast's jaws parted wide enough to swallow Eli whole, and instead of screaming, he leaned closer and whispered something only it could hear. The dome lights strobed crimson as the klaxon's wail deepened into a vibrating pulse that rattled the containment pylons. The Xythar Beast's mandibles rotated slowly, tasting the air saturated with the pheromonal trace of the escaped Void Wyrm larva. Zorvax froze beside the emergency console, calculating catastrophic probabilities faster than his neural implants could display them. Every recorded interaction suggested imminent violence. Eli's fingers pressed firmly into the beast's chest fur, matching the rhythm of his earlier humming. The creature's pupils contracted slightly, focusing not on distant prey signals, but on the tiny, fragile human pressing against its armored torso. A thunderous boom echoed from the adjoining corridor, sending a tremor through the grav pad. The beast's dorsal spines flared outward, scraping the dome's upper shield in a shower of crackling energy. Zorvax shrieked in his native tongue and activated auxiliary containment protocols, but warning symbols cascaded across his interface. The beast's aggression index surged dangerously. Eli shifted tactics, sliding his hand slowly toward the scarred section of the abdomen again, deliberately gentler this time. Hey, he murmured, voice barely audible under the alarms. The beast's tail lashed again, narrowly missing a structural support column reinforced with neutron steel. Across the observation gallery, security drones deployed stun arrays, their emitters warming with lethal brightness. Zorvax barked a cancellation command, terrified the drones would escalate the beast further. Meanwhile, Eli began speaking continuously, describing nonsense about Earth beaches, slow ocean tides, and warm sunlight reflecting across blue water. The beast's sensory whiskers twitched at the unfamiliar acoustic patterns. Its breathing remained ragged, but it hesitated. The Void Wyrm larva's infrasonic territorial call pulsed faintly through the facility again, answered by distant roars from other containment sectors. The entire zoo risked cascading into synchronized predator panic within minutes if someone failed immediately. Zorvax stumbled toward Eli, careful not to trigger the beast's motion sensors. "Human Navarro, cease emotional bonding procedures," he hissed urgently. "You lack comprehension of cross-species neurodominance." Eli shook his head without looking away from the beast's eyes. "I understand enough." He's scared and angry at the same time. The beast released a guttural rumble that rattled Zorvax's exoskeletal plates. Energy rippled across the creature's frills, flashing alternating crimson and violet. Eli inhaled slowly, exaggerating each breath. After several seconds, the beast mirrored the pattern unconsciously, its massive ribcage expanding and collapsing with slightly slower cadence. Another explosion thundered closer, followed by security chatter confirming the larva had entered ventilation arteries connecting predator habitats. Zorvax nearly fainted. If the Void Wyrm scent reached additional apex specimens simultaneously, containment would dissolve entirely. Eli's mind raced, recalling behavioral studies about Earth animals reacting to external stress through redirected aggression. He cautiously slid one knee forward, maintaining eye contact with the beast. "You're not fighting that thing," he whispered. "You're staying right here. You're safe." "I'm safe." The beast's claw extended again, hovering above Eli's shoulder, talons trembling with indecision and barely restrained power. Zorvax initiated emergency sedation preparation, but the beast's physiology required hours for dosage calibration. A rushed injection would likely trigger metabolic overload, causing explosive organ failure and releasing toxic spore clouds across the dome. Eli noticed the drone technicians assembling tranquilizer cannons behind reinforced barriers. He shook his head frantically at Zorvax. "No sudden shots. He'll interpret it as attack." Zorvax snarled. "If the larva breaches this sector, the beast will interpret everything as attack." The creature's ears flattened as another infrasonic pulse vibrated the habitat. Its mandibles snapped reflexively, inches from Eli's arm. Eli suddenly changed strategy, rolling onto his back directly beneath the beast's chest, exposing his own vulnerable torso. Gasps erupted from the control staff. Zorvax nearly collapsed. The beast's gaze tracked the movement, confusion rippling across its glowing frills as Eli lifted both hands slowly, palms open. "See?" he whispered softly. "No threat. No dominance. Just calm." The beast's claw lowered cautiously, pressing against Eli's chest with feather-light pressure despite its colossal mass. Sensors screamed warnings about structural strain, yet Eli smiled, continuing his steady breathing rhythm as sweat poured down his temples. The habitat's overhead vents burst open with a shriek of twisted alloy, and a serpentine silhouette flickered across the upper shielding grid. The Void Wyrm larva slithered along the containment ceiling, its translucent body pulsing with radioactive iridescence. The beast's eyes snapped upward instantly, instincts detonating into pure predatory focus. A roar built inside its chest, compressing air into a sonic weapon capable of shattering mountains. Eli reacted instinctively, grabbing the beast's chin ridge and forcing its gaze back down. "No," he said firmly, voice trembling but resolute. "Not your fight. Stay with me." The beast hesitated, its roar dissolving into a vibrating growl that rippled across Eli's bones. The Void Wyrm larva screeched overhead, releasing pheromones that dripped like invisible acid into the beast's olfactory receptors. Zorvax realized containment shields would fail within 90 seconds if the beast attacked upward. He frantically searched for alternatives, his mind rejecting every standard protocol. Meanwhile, Eli resumed humming, louder this time, his voice cracking with strain but unwavering. The beast's frills flickered erratically between combat crimson and tranquil turquoise, broadcasting internal conflict no xenobiologist had ever documented. Security officers shouted that the larva was chewing through the upper vent seals. Debris rained onto the grav pad, scattering sparks around Eli and the beast. The creature's claws dug trenches into the floor as instinct battled unfamiliar emotional anchoring. Eli pressed his forehead against the beast's luminous chest plating. "You're okay," he repeated, each word slower, calmer, stronger. The beast's growl lowered into a resonant vibration that synchronized with Eli's heartbeat, their rhythms gradually aligning despite the chaos collapsing around them. Zorvax stared, stunned, realizing the impossible might be occurring. The larva burst partially through the ceiling mesh, shrieking triumphantly as containment alarms reached deafening intensity. The beast's pupils dilated again, lethal focus returning with terrifying speed. Eli's voice nearly failed as he whispered, "Trust me." For a terrifying moment, the beast's jaw opened again, sonic energy building behind rows of rotating mandibles. Every weapon system in the dome locked onto the creature simultaneously. Zorvax braced for apocalypse. Then, against all evolutionary logic and recorded behavioral precedent, the beast slowly closed its jaws and lowered its head beside Eli's fragile human body. The Void Wyrm larva tore fully through the ceiling, and the moment it dropped into the dome, every survival instinct in the Xythar Beast ignited at once. The larva hit the grav pad with a wet, resonant impact, its translucent body coiling in a spiral of radioactive light. It was smaller than the beast, barely 6 meters long, but it radiated a frequency that clawed at the nervous system. The air thickened with pheromones that screamed challenge, invasion, dominance. The beast's frills exploded into blinding crimson, dorsal spines locking rigid as a war roar detonated from its chest. This time, Eli felt the sound inside his skull. He was thrown sideways as the beast surged upright, its earlier calm shattered. The grav pad buckled under the sudden shift in weight. Containment pylons overloaded, arcing lightning across the dome's interior. Zorvax screamed orders into his comm, but half the security drones shorted out mid-flight. The larva reared back, its circular maw unfolding like a blooming nightmare. Rings of crystalline teeth vibrated, generating a counter-frequency shriek that met the beast's roar in midair. The collision of sound waves shattered observation glass in the upper gallery. Dignitaries fled in chaotic panic. Eli scrambled to his feet, ears ringing, vision swimming. The beast lunged. 30 meters of armored fury crossed the dome in a heartbeat. Its claws slammed down where the larva had been, only for the serpentine creature to liquefy, its body momentarily phasing into semi-plasma state. It reformed behind the beast and lashed forward, teeth sinking into a dorsal spine. The beast howled. Bioluminescent blood sprayed across the grav pad, sizzling where it touched exposed circuitry. The larva clung like molten glass, burrowing deeper. The beast rolled violently, smashing into a containment pillar. The entire dome shuddered. "Sedation cannons online!" a technician shouted. "No!" Eli yelled, staggering toward the chaos. "You'll hit both of them!" Zorvax's crest flared in agony. "If we do nothing, they will annihilate the habitat!" The beast slammed onto its side, crushing the larva partially beneath its mass. The larva screeched, body vibrating at a frequency that made Eli's teeth ache. The beast's mandibles rotated, preparing for a bite that would likely tear half the dome apart. Eli saw something no one else did. The beast wasn't purely enraged, it was disoriented. The larva's frequency wasn't just a challenge, it was scrambling the beast's sensory equilibrium. The earlier synchronization, the breathing, the heartbeat alignment, had given Eli insight into its rhythms. Now those rhythms were fractured. He ran toward the beast. "Human, retreat!" Zorvax roared. Eli ignored him. He darted beneath the beast's thrashing forelimb, narrowly avoiding a talon that could have sliced him in half. Heat from the larva's plasma form scorched his sleeve as he skidded across the grav pad and reached the beast's head. Its eyes were wild, unfocused, pupils blown wide. "Hey!" Eli shouted, grabbing the chin ridge again. "Look at me!" The beast's jaw snapped inches from his torso, the sonic charge building again in its throat. Eli did the only thing he could think of. He slapped both hands over the beast's primary auditory vents and screamed. Not in fear. In rhythm. A sharp, steady pattern. 3 beats pause. 3 beats pause. The same tempo he'd hummed earlier, amplified with every ounce of lung power he had left. The beast faltered. The larva, sensing weakness, writhed free and lunged toward Eli, maw widening. Zorvax fired a precision stun bolt, not at the larva, but at the grav pad beneath it. The ground erupted in a concussive shockwave, throwing the larva off trajectory. "Human!" Zorvax shouted. "Your auditory interference. Continue!" Eli didn't understand the science, but he understood connection. He pressed his forehead to the beast's armored snout again, ignoring the chaos, and resumed the rhythm, this time humming between shouts, forcing the tempo into the beast's skull through bone conduction. The larva shrieked, increasing its frequency to destabilize the beast further. The beast's breathing stuttered. Eli shifted tactics mid-hum. He began slamming his palm against the beast's snout in the same pattern as the beats: 3 taps, pause. 3 taps, pause. A physical metronome cutting through the sonic war. The beast's frills flickered, crimson, violet, turquoise. The larva lunged again, teeth clamping onto the beast's forelimb. The beast roared, but this time the roar modulated. Not chaotic. Directed. The sonic blast that erupted from its jaws wasn't wild. It was focused. A narrow cone of compressed air slammed into the larva midcoil, pinning it against the dome wall without shattering the structure. Energy rippled across containment shields but held. Zorvax stared in disbelief. "It is adjusting its resonance." The larva thrashed, plasma formed destabilizing under the controlled sonic pressure. The beast stepped forward, one massive claw pinning the creature to the wall. Instead of biting wildly, it waited. For the rhythm. Eli kept tapping. 3 beats. Pause. The beast inhaled. 3 beats. Pause. Then it released a second sonic pulse, precise, harmonic, tuned to the larva's own destabilizing frequency. The larva's body flickered violently, its semi-plasma state collapsing. Its crystalline teeth cracked under resonance feedback. With a final shriek, it solidified completely, just long enough for the beast's jaws to snap shut around its midsection. Silence followed. The beast did not tear it apart. Instead, it lifted the immobilized larva and slammed it into the grav pad with calculated force, knocking it unconscious without rupturing containment seals. The dome alarms shifted from catastrophic red to emergency amber. Eli sagged to his knees. The beast turned slowly toward him, breath heavy, bioluminescent blood still dripping from its wounded spine. For one terrifying second, Eli wondered if the redirected aggression would now find a new target. Instead, the beast lowered its massive head and gently bumped him with its snout. Zorvax exhaled for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Security teams rushed in with reinforced stasis nets, carefully securing the unconscious larva. Technicians stabilized the damaged pylons. The dome's structural integrity crept back into safe parameters. Eli remained kneeling, one hand resting on the beast's muzzle. "You didn't lose it," he whispered hoarsely. "You just needed a beat." The beast's frills glowed a steady, calm turquoise. Across the shattered observation gallery, surviving dignitaries stared in stunned silence at the humans standing beside the galaxy's most feared apex predator. And for the first time since its capture, the Xythar Beast did not look like a weapon. It looked like it had chosen. The official report began with the phrase, "Catastrophic containment failure narrowly avoided," but everyone in the dome knew that wasn't the whole truth. By the time the emergency crews cleared the last fragments of shattered observation glass and reinforced the ceiling mesh, the Xythar Beast was lying calmly on its side again, one massive eye half-lidded as med drones treated the wound along its dorsal spine. The Void Wyrm larva, now sealed in a triple-layer stasis field, floated helplessly inside a containment prism at the far end of the habitat. Eli sat cross-legged beside the beast's head, a scorch mark running up his sleeve and a bruise forming across his ribs where a claw had pressed too hard. Zorvax stood several meters away, datapad trembling slightly in his grasp. "You altered its combat resonance," the keeper said slowly. "Without technological interface." Eli shrugged weakly. "I clapped off beat at a concert once. Got yelled at. Learned my lesson." The beast's frills pulsed faint turquoise at the sound of his voice. Zorvax stared at the creature, then at the human. "The Xythar Beast has resisted neuropacification grids, pheromone dampeners, even telepathic mediators. Yet you..." He paused, crest folding in reluctant awe. You hummed at it. Eli smiled. I listened first. Around them, technicians moved carefully, no longer frantic but reverent. News drones hovered beyond the reinforced barrier, broadcasting live across the Triune Assembly's networks. The headline was already spreading. Human comms apex predator during Void Wyrm breach. Zorvax's comm chimed. The Triune ambassador's holographic form flickered into existence, translucent and visibly shaken. Keeper Zorvax, the ambassador began, voice tight. We have reviewed preliminary sensor logs. The human's interference prevented a multi-sector predator cascade. Zorvax inclined his head. Affirmative. The ambassador's many eyes shifted toward Eli. Human Navarro. Explain. Eli scratched the beast absent-mindedly beneath its chin ridge. The enormous creature emitted a low, content vibration. Back on Earth, Eli said. We figured out a long time ago that fear spreads faster than claws. You isolate something, treat it like a monster, it acts like one. You give it a pattern to anchor to? Sometimes it chooses that instead. The ambassador processed this in silence. Zorvax's datapad pinged with updated analytics. He blinked rapidly. Remarkable. The beast's aggression baseline has decreased 12% since physical contact resumed post-conflict. Physical contact? The ambassador echoed, alarm rising again. Eli grinned. He means belly rubs. As if on cue, the beast shifted slightly, exposing part of its underbelly again. Several technicians flinched. Zorvax hesitated only a moment before speaking. Proceed, human Navarro. Eli obliged, placing both hands against the luminous fur and scratching gently in slow circles. The beast's purring resumed, soft at first, then resonant enough to vibrate through the grav pad. Across the habitat complex, other apex predators, monitored closely after the breach, began showing unexpected changes. Elevated stress markers declined. Territorial pacing slowed. A Nebulan shrieker in Sector 2 curled into a resting posture for the first time in captivity. The ambassador's voice dropped to a whisper. Is the human emitting a chemical? Zorvax scanned the air. Negative. Only standard human pheromones. Elevated cortisol, mild adrenaline. Nothing extraordinary. Then what are we observing? Eli looked up. You ever think maybe apex predators don't just need bigger cages? Silence settled over the dome. In the days that followed, the Galactic Zoo underwent the most radical redesign in its history. Containment protocols remained. No one was foolish enough to remove safety measures entirely, but isolation was no longer the default strategy. Environmental enrichment programs were implemented based on Earth's zoological psychology models. Rhythmic audio patterns were tested in predator habitats. Controlled tactile interaction protocols, supervised heavily at first, were introduced with astonishing results. Not every species responded the same way. Some rejected contact. Some required different sensory anchors. But a pattern emerged. Aggression decreased when creatures were given stimulation beyond confinement and nutrient paste. And at the center of it all was the Xythar Beast. Visitors now gathered daily, not to witness a cage terror, but to observe an unprecedented partnership. Eli would enter the dome under careful supervision, sit beside the colossal creature, and begin his low, steady humming. The beast would roll partially onto its side, frills glowing a calm turquoise blue. Zorvax watched one such session from the observation deck, crest lifted in something that might have been pride. You have altered galactic husbandry, he said quietly over the comm. Eli chuckled. I just scratched where it itched. The beast opened one eye lazily, as if amused. Later that cycle, Zorvax joined Eli inside the dome for the first time without a full tactical squad on standby. His steps were cautious but determined. The beast tracked him with a curious gaze. Eli patted the creature's flank. He remembers you shouting. Zorvax stiffened. I was preventing catastrophe. Yeah, Eli said gently. But he felt that. Zorvax considered this, then slowly extended one clawed hand toward the beast's side. Every security system in the dome quietly powered to readiness. The beast's frills flickered. Eli began the rhythm, 3 soft taps against the grav pad. Pause. 3 taps. Pause. Zorvax matched the tempo unconsciously, his claw resting lightly against the beast's armored hide. Nothing exploded. Instead, the beast exhaled slowly, lowering its head to rest fully against the floor between them. Zorvax's secondary eyelids fluttered in astonishment. "It permits me," Eli smiled. "Told you. Not a bomb. Just big." Word of the transformation spread beyond the assembly. Research institutions requested human consultants. Apex containment doctrines were rewritten. The term, Navarro Protocol, entered academic lexicons, describing rhythm-based behavioral stabilization in high-threat xenofauna. And the Xythar Beast? It became something unprecedented, not domesticated, not diminished, but understood. On the anniversary of the breach, the Triune ambassador returned in person to observe a ceremonial demonstration. The once terrified dignitaries stood calmly behind reinforced glass as Eli and Zorvax entered the habitat together. The beast approached them willingly. Eli knelt first, scratching beneath the chin ridge. Zorvax followed, maintaining the steady rhythmic taps. The beast rolled, slowly, deliberately, onto its back. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. 30 meters of apex predator exposed its vulnerable underbelly to 2 comparatively fragile beings. Eli laughed softly. "Guess he didn't read the rulebook." Zorvax allowed himself a rare, rumbling chuckle. "We are rewriting it." As Eli scratched the luminous fur and the beast's purr resonated across the dome, the ambassador spoke quietly to the gathered assembly. "Perhaps strength is not diminished by trust," the ambassador said. "Perhaps it is defined by it." The beast's frills glowed brighter, turquoise-edged with gold. Eli leaned back against the creature's side, looking up at the artificial violet sky projection. "You know," he said to Zorvax, "back home, we say if it shows you its belly, that's a big deal." Zorvax glanced at the colossal, once terrifying predator now rumbling content.